Hi everyone, welcome to this video on lesson 12 of the variation and inheritance scheme of work. This lesson is on selective breeding. And it's here that we're really starting to get close to Darwin's theories of natural selection. But this has to come first because, certainly within the scheme of work, because it was through Darwin spending time with cattle breeders and pigeon breeders and so on throughout the UK. And again, these are the kind of things that many of our students will be familiar with, especially those who live in more rural areas. And they'll have a sense of how characteristics can be bred deliberately by humans in animals. And this was what Darwin had a really detailed understanding of and what he studied in a lot of detail. And it was through that he was able to develop his idea of natural selection. So the idea that rather than a farmer or a breeder, a human being doing the selection, actually nature was somehow going through that process in a way that he tried to theorize. So this is a really important lesson, building on everything we've done in terms of variation, so noticing different characteristics of organisms within a species, through all those adaptations and this idea that organisms with certain characteristics are more likely to survive. Now we're going to look at the process by which different species can be introduced and kind of distinguished from one another from having a common ancestor. So you can see how this links back to Darwin's finches and lots of the other things that we've been talking about through this scheme of work. Now, it's also a handy lesson because this is a classic GCSE question. So what we're going to do here is focus the lesson on examples, and you may recognize some of the examples in the slides from previous GCSE papers. Now, the ones Naomi has drawn are all related to brassicas, so cauliflowers and kale and vegetables like that. If you wish to branch out, which you are more than welcome to do, you can. So when I did this, I chose the example which was topical in the news at the time. I did this recently, which was XL bullies. And I'm going to show you where I want students to get to by the end of this lesson first, before I then show you how I would explain it. So this is not what I would do with the students first, but I'm showing you where I want them to get to. And then we'll have a think about how we'd explain it so that they can write like this. So I'll just give you a moment to pause the video and have a read of this question and the answer that I've given. So pause the video now and have a read. So thank you for having a read of that. So really what we're doing is describing the steps. And again, I won't go into loads of detail on this, but if we're describing, I might put a box around this command word just to really highlight that to students if I was modeling this writing. And again, we wouldn't do this until after the diagram, but it's important for you as a teacher to know where you want students to get to before you plan your diagram. What I want them to be able to do is essentially identify what the desired characteristic is. So in this case, I've tried to make it quite obvious in the question. Where was it? Known for having particularly large muscles. So this is the desired characteristic, having particularly large muscles. And then it's this process by which we select and breed the organisms with the desired characteristics together. So in this case, it's the ones with the largest muscles. Some of the offspring would have had large muscles. Next, so this is describing, rather than it being related causally, although there is some causation in this, of course, but when we're describing, we're really writing sequentially. So we're linking ideas together with words like next and subsequently, as you can see here. And again, next, the offspring with the largest muscles were selected and bred together. So we're showing that we kind of continue this process. And I put here a greater proportion of their offspring would have had large muscles, because what we want them to establish is that over many generations, if you keep doing this, ultimately you want to get to the point where all of the offspring were born with large muscles. So I'll underline that because that's really important. That is when you've essentially established a new sorry, not a new species, a new variant within the species, in this case what we call a new breed, and I've put here, this is how the XL bullied breed was established. So when you can consistently get that desired characteristic, that's when you've essentially got yourself a new breed. And we see this all the time in nearly all of the food that we eat, and in lots of different animals like racehorses and pigeons and so on. We see this process. So the question is, in this video, how would I go about explaining this process with the aid of diagrams? So what I might do is this. So if I just move that out of the way. So if we come back to here, the way I tend to explain this, this is the way I've done it with the XL Bullies example, is ask students to imagine that we've got 6 dogs like this. And I'm not going to draw dogs because that would be beyond my capability, and it would also take forever. I'm just going to draw dots. And I'm going to suggest to them that these dogs have different size muscles. So maybe we've got 1 with small muscles, 2 with medium muscles, 2 with large muscles, and 1 with extra large muscles. And I, as a breeder, am thinking that I want all of my dogs to have these extra large muscles. So how do I go about doing it? Well, let's label these as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the first thing you can ask students to do is say, well, which ones would you breed together if you want to get all of your dogs to have large muscles? And you're hoping they're going to recognize that we're going to try and breed these together because these are the ones with the largest muscles. So already you can see that process of selection taking place. So what I might do here is show these again, and I'm just going to draw 6 more circles to illustrate this. And then I'm going to say, well, you know, I'm going to try 4 and 6 first. 4 and 6. I might do 5 and 6 as well. They would be good. And I'll probably do 4 and 5 too, and see what that comes up with. So it's worth just reminding ourselves that that's an L and an XL. So I'm breeding the ones with the largest muscles together, and an L and an L here. And I'm going to show that breeding process in my diagram like this, as follows, like that. So again, what I'm doing is using my diagram to tell the story that I then want them to write. And in this case, you could start to add steps which are going to correspond to different sentences. You might say, well, this is step number 1. Select the ones with the largest muscles. Step number 2, breed those together. Now what I'm going to get here is various offspring, which I'm going to label like this. And I'm going to imagine for each one, each pair that I breed together, I get 3 offspring. So let's do something like this. So now I'm going to have 9 dogs, just in this very, very simple example. And you can make up some sizes of muscles here. But what's important to emphasize to students is that you don't just get all XL muscles straight away. You get variation. And that's a really, really important point. Again, it comes back to this wider idea of sexual reproduction, how that relates to variation. So I might put, actually, even though this is large breeding with an extra large, there might be a disease or something like that, but you might get one with small muscles. But then, in addition to that, you might get 2 with larger muscles. When you breed these 2 together, let's do the large and the large next. Let's do medium, large, and extra large, something like that. And when you breed these 2 together, you might get, let's say, a large, an extra large, and an extra large. So you get in this variation. And now I'm going to label these as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. And what I want students to do, and I might ask them to do this on whiteboards or something, is say, okay, what next? Which ones am I going to breed next? So this would be step number 3, to say that some of the offspring are going to have larger muscles. Step 4 is then going to be select the offspring with the largest muscles and breed those together. So what I might do, I mean, firstly, I'm probably going to do E and I and F and I, because they're the ones with the largest muscles. Obviously, I've got to do ones from different. Sorry, that's F and I. Beg your pardon. F and I. So I'm going to do the XL ones together like this. And then you could say, well, I might also want to do, I don't know, B and E and C and F and so on, all of these different combinations, so B and E, let's see, C and F, all of these different ones, I'll just put etc. So I'm going through the process again. This time I'm breeding the offspring with the largest muscles together. And if I put some sizes in here, so these are XL, 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 B was L, and this is an XL, and this is another L, XL, and so on. And I breed those together, and again, you can emphasize to students that there'll actually be more combinations that you could breed. But out of these, the point that we made in our writing was that, well, actually, a greater proportion of the offspring, in this case, are going to have the big muscles. So what I'm going to show here is, if these are my offspring here like this, again, perhaps I'm not doing this the neatest, and I should have said, sorry, so we've selected, and then we're going to breed those together, so that's kind of step number 5. And what you want to show is that a greater proportion of these, of the offspring are going to have the extra large muscles. So in this case, these two are extra large, so you might say you get 1 with large muscles, but 2 with extra large muscles this time. In this case, when you breed these 2 extra large muscles, you might get 2 large and 1 extra large. When you're doing a large and extra large, you might get the same, large, large, extra large. And here, again, you can emphasize the point that not all of them are going to produce extra large muscles, so you might just get 1 with medium, 1 with large, and 1 with extra large here like that. It isn't guaranteed, but what you can point out is that now you've got even more extra large muscles than you had before, so that's step number 6. They can turn into words when they're writing their sentences. And then the point is that you keep repeating this process until, if you were to do it, you'd be breeding extra large with extra large, and all of the offspring would have extra large muscles. This is how selective breeding works, but it takes many, many, many generations. This process goes on and on and on. And again, all we're doing in this lesson really is turning a diagram like this, which looks complicated if it's presented boldly like that, but if you build it up step by step, actually it's telling a really, really simple story. We're turning the diagram like this into text that looks a bit like this. And that's how we're going to get students to be thinking in terms of this concept of selective breeding. So hopefully that's clear. In the next lesson, we'll get even closer to Darwin's theories.